Hilton brings you new ways to stay. With experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
Hi, this is Mike, co-host of Realistic Sustainability, the podcast, which you probably already know, but I'm also the author of A Beginner's Guide to Greening Your Life. That was the book that led to our Facebook page, our Facebook group, and, well, even this show. It offers tips on promoting your positive footprint while decreasing your carbon footprint. So, if you want to read what started all of this, get A Beginner's Guide to Greening Your Life, available on Amazon, eBay, Etsy, or just visit greeningyourlife.org for more information. Thank you for joining the sustainable movement and promoting a greener future. Hi, and welcome back to Realistic Sustainability. I'm Mike, and of course, I'm here with Nick.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
It's almost like we haven't talked in a week.
It has been a very long week.
We've even missed some recording days because life has been so busy.
Yeah, I'm going to jump out front and take the blame for that one. To anyone listening, I kind of shook up my life and decided to chase a dream. And in doing that, I kind of mollywopped all the time we normally would be recording. So for that, I'm sorry. But it's not just the recording. See, every day I would call Mike at least once. And that one conversation, maybe half an hour or it might be 3 hours. But I used to talk to him every day. So to go an entire week plus without hearing the sound of his angelic voice, it's hard. I'm having withdrawals.
Angelic voice, right.
It's gorgeous.
So I will say that today was a absolutely fantastic spring day.
It was gorgeous outside. It was fantastic. You're right.
Today was 65 degrees in Michigan. It might as well be 80. I had windows down in the pickup on the way to go buy more soil. It was a fantastic day.
So, like we just talked about before we started this, I spent the entire day helping my son work on a project. He has until Thursday to turn it in, but I only had yesterday and today to help him with it because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I am going to be gone or busy by the time he gets home from school, and I only have free time right when he leaves. So I wanted to make sure that he had my undivided attention so I could give this project the best chance for success because he needs confidence. Like, he can do a lot of things, but he doesn't think he can. So he needs someone there to kind of gently push him and encourage him because he has no idea how great he is.
Well, that sounds like a very important job and sounds like something in time well spent, if you will.
I hope so. We'll see when he gets his grade back. I'm not going to lie, though. The original plan for today was not what happened. See, the original plan was planned on Thursday. And the plan was Saturday and Sunday were supposed to be 55 to 60, 62 degrees. So the plan was to tackle the yard and to clean everything up and get all the extra stuff that had fallen after winter started this past year. Because 2 of my trees are giant oak trees, and they don't drop leaves until the middle of January. Not all their leaves.
Well, I'm going to take a moment here because I have a few updates I want to give. And, at some point we'll have a show too. But take as much time as you can, not before you clean the yard. Remember, every day while that sits there, more and more nutrients goes into your soil. So I'd give it a little bit longer before you start cleaning that yard up.
I want to. Here's the thing, though, is if I don't, I have neighbors that complain. And even though I don't believe there's any bylaws in the township that dictate how your lawn has to be kept or maintained, because sometimes my lawn has looked like a hayfield. When I do have someone come over to mow it, because I do have someone that mows it, if it's not maintained throughout the beginning of spring, there's always something unforeseen that he hits, and I have to replace a belt or a blade on a mower. It happens every year. So I'm trying hard to get out there and make sure there's no giant rocks or random toys or pedals off bicycles that are just chilling, hiding in the grass.
Well, those you can absolutely pick up, but leaves, I'd leave them there as long as you can and let them mulch them up time and time again. Just a little tidbit there because I've been playing in the dirt all day. You can't quite see it, but I've got a lot of dirt still under my nails. I had to kind of rush up here. Today was the day where we started filling all the buckets with the dirt, getting prepared for all the places where when I run out of space in the garden, you start filling buckets and putting it around the garden. And we started doing that today. I finished conditioning the soil. for the garden, for the raised beds. I have added my couple of hanging planters this year so I can increase the yield a bit, and we've planted some raspberries. I don't think we're done, but we'll just keep adding and adding capacity, and when it's time to plant, we should be loving it.
And didn't I see on Facebook that you have a pretty good sized pea pod on one of your plants?
Yeah, we actually have vegetables in the basement now. That is a thing. I not only have quite a bit of lush lettuce, but now there's at least 3 pea pods growing on the peas that are trying to reach the light. I mean, they're probably 4 feet tall at this point.
That's awesome. I was so excited to see your post. I've been living vicariously through Facebook because I haven't been able to talk to you in forever.
Well, it's not even just those. Right now, I have green beans starting to sprout, and all of those tomato plants and pepper plants and all those ones we're going to use with the city, which I have an update for, they're all sprouting. Everything is looking good. This experiment in the basement so far is going well.
That's fantastic news. And I'm going to be honest, I'm a little jealous. No, I'm going to scratch that. I'm not jealous. I'm excited. I'm envious because I've never been quite so good at growing things. But I know that I'm going to come and take some of those plants. So you keep growing as much as you want.
Again, I'm hoping that by the end of my grow season, and when I'm sad that I don't get any more produce, that I'll be able to continue some of it downstairs. That's the end goal. I'm hoping that I can drag my growing season out as far as I can. I have learned I need more lights. I need more of those square LED lights. Those things work fantastic. They don't take a lot of electricity, and I need about 3 more for the area in which I want to grow. So that will be something I'll be looking for here in the near future. Now, that's one of the updates I wanted to give. Was today was one of those days that lets you play garden. But also, I spent yesterday with the city of Durant and a lot of the individuals who are excited about the edible landscaping project. I told everybody that we would start small and work our way up. As it stands now, it looks like all, I believe, 8 of the cement planters that we have in town, which are probably 4 foot by 6 foot, maybe 8 foot, each planter at every corner, roughly. Each of those, we're going to thin out the flowers in there and the bulbs so we can use those in some other places. It's been about 8 years, so the roses and tulips and those have spread quite a bit. We're going to limit those back, and then we're going to start at the end of May. Tomatoes, peppers, and then a ground cover. So each of those will get a renovation. And the park where our caboose is, where you can see the train museum, that is going to get a complete makeover. That's going to get a lot of zucchini and some other things put in there. We've got it mostly planned out, a couple of raised beds, and I'm very excited to start this project. So even though we got a new city manager, everybody's still on board. So keep your eyes peeled. I'll try and get updates on Facebook, and I'll probably create a page on the website so we can keep an eye on it and track its progress. Because if it works in Durant, it works anywhere.
I agree, and I think that's so exciting. I do have a couple of questions. Does Durant do anything to celebrate the fall?
Durant has a lot of events. They are big on creating holiday events. They have a car cruise. We have railroad days. And when it gets into the fall, there's several other events.
So how, and this might be looked upon poorly, but how do you guys feel about along the backs of some of those buildings that have more shade, planting pumpkins and that kind of stuff? So as Halloween comes, people could just come get pumpkins. Or if you really wanted to, the city could pick them and sell them.
We're talking about growing pumpkins and gourds.
Awesome.
So that we can use them for the decoration for the fall.
There you go.
So behind where we're talking about growing the edible landscaping, where people can come sit at that park and be able to pick some things, behind that where it's less seen across that fence line, that's where you're going to see some pumpkin plants, some gourds, things of that nature to help. It'll look like ground cover, but it's something we can use.
It's fantastic. As long as it has shade, pumpkins do better in shade. They don't like direct sunlight.
So now one last thing before I put us in a situation where our show is super, super short is I was coming back from Home Depot after buying dirt, which always sounds funny. And there's a landfill on the north side of town. It's not in town, near town. It is much further north, but it's completely surrounded by farmland. And Jamie and I noticed today there is plastic garbage littered all over hundreds of acres of farmland. And it was just terrible. We were just driving down this flat area road, and you could just see it's not like completely covered or coated, but it was certainly a lot. Like if you went out there with trash bags, you were going to need several over, 50 to 100 acres. But it was hundreds and hundreds of acres and just garbage everywhere.
That is disheartening, and it's also frustrating because I understand that a lot of times if it's a big landfill, when they drive the trucks up there, being so high in the air, it doesn't take much of a gust to pull those bags and those pieces of plastic off. So what's probably happening is it's probably not being maintained very well, and the things aren't being buried or disposed of properly in a good amount of time. It's probably just sitting up there. I know the one we have here in Montrose on a really windy day, there is a field to the what would be the east of it. It's about, I would guess, 10 to 20 acres. It's not a lot of land, but on a really windy day, you can't even see ground. It's completely white and brown. It's all plastic. The trees surrounding it, everything. And it takes a 5-guy crew hours to clean it up.
Yeah, it's funny because that landfill even has netting around it. So it must not have, it only has it for the road then. It doesn't have it for protecting the surrounding land.
The netting is great in the sense that the netting is for everyone listening, is very reminiscent to the cage that surrounds the home plate of a baseball field. It's about, whatever to guess, 30, 40 feet tall. And then there's another section that turns inwards, which is probably goes another 15 feet. It's really big and it's really great, except this garbage is coming off the top of what I call the mountain. That hill is huge. It's not just like a little hill. It's practically a skiing resort. It's very large. It's a long drive up there. And all it takes, and you got to realize that plastic bags don't even weigh more than like 10, 12 grams. I mean, there's almost no weight to them. It just takes a very gentle breeze to float those things all the way across. And if a nice breeze comes, they don't have enough weight. They're never going to come down and get caught in that fence. So they're just going to go over and they're going to land in someone's field, someone's crop, in the road, on your car, and then they're going to be someone else's mess. And it's never going to biodegrade. There's the reasons why land is zoned a certain way to be used for landfills. It's because it's not, that land isn't going to be used for anything else in the very near future. It's also why they're vented for methane, because when things do actually break down, the gas has to come out.
Right. It fits good into this show because this week we're talking about the 5 R's, and I know sometimes, in school they'll teach 3 R's, and I've seen as many as 8 R's, but it is, I think 5 pretty much does cover it. So my observation of terrible landfilliness kind of fits in. So let's keep these R's pretty simple. It is refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle in that order. I'm not sure if anybody ever realizes that they put those in a specific order. Did you ever notice that?
No, I never noticed it in the sense that there was a specific order. It makes sense. You said that was refuse, reduce, reuse, and was it repurpose and recycle? Is that what you're...
Yep.
So essentially, when you say refuse, that means don't take something when you already have one. Right? That's kind of refuse a new one because you already have it, like plastic bags.
Yeah, let's look at that one first. Let's start there. We'll just work our way through all of them because
okay.
I think sometimes it's always good to have a conversation about each of these, but refuse is by far the most important one. Now, does it mean that we never get anything that we want or that we can't buy the things we do want? No, it just means that if we don't necessarily need it and you can do without it, refuse it. Today, Jamie and I, while we were out, stopped and got a bite to eat. And when I got back to the table, there was already a straw in my drink. I never even had the opportunity to refuse it. So taking it out, it doesn't matter. Using it, I might as well. But when they come to me and I order my drinks, I'll say an unsweetened iced tea without a straw, please. I'm practicing adding that to my order so that they know they don't have to waste one.
No, I think that's wonderful. And I think I'm going to start adopting that as well because like you always say, and the manager, the one that taught me, the only thing worse than a single-use item is a single-use item that never gets used. Because if they bring you that straw and then you don't use it, they still have to throw it away. They can't keep it. So,
and it was like that before a COVID world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I try to minimize or refuse as many single-use items as I can. Matter of fact, I have a picture that I need to post. We have friends that are getting ready to go on vacation, and we decided to get a bite eat with them here recently here in Duran. And our waitress was very busy. It's, things are just kind of starting again. So things aren't clicking on all cylinders quite yet. And so we asked, one of the guys at the table asked for a napkin, and she gave us probably 2 inches of napkins.
You must have went to Union Station.
Nope.
Oh, really? No. Oh, they're not
No.
even open yet. So
No.
where did you go where they gave you $3 in used paper? Like, that's a lot.
And I started thinking about it. We're still in a semi-COVID world. If I don't use 2 inches of napkins while we're eating, and I got to tell you, I can be sloppy, but I'm not that sloppy, then they can't use them. Anything that comes to our table has to be thrown away. I took them home.
Well, yeah, you should. And here's the part where I get really bothered by being part of this show and also being in food service. Is those napkins that she brought you, I don't know what they looked like, but even on the really high end, really nice ones, they're only like $3 to $4 a package, and a package has 75 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at about 3 cents a napkin is their cost. So that stack that she brought you, honestly, was probably like a quarter, 50 cents worth. And I bring this up because in a world where we're using too much of the stuff and we're wasting too many single-use items, the amount of resources that goes into making those paper napkins is just abysmal. It's terrible. And just to hand them out willy-nilly, like, it's endless. Like, and I understand that what I'm asking people to do is to grasp a situation of a world that's far greater than their own scope and perspective. And it is a lot to give you a headache. But Lord have mercy. Like, if someone says, hey, I want an extra napkin, give them 2. If there's 4 people at the table, bring 4 just to be safe. Bring a few. But don't bring a half a package because you think that this guy over here might spill mayonnaise out of his burger and you got to make sure he's going to clean it up right.
Oh, it was a shocking amount. Like, it was enough for all of us to stop. And one of our friends saying, Mike, how do you feel about that? Because they I'm like, that is not okay. I am not happy with this because once it hit our table, it's ours. And if we don't use them or take them, they're just going to throw them away.
Yeah, well, they have to. Here's the ironic part. And we talked a little bit about this, is some establishments go by different health codes than others. But essentially, if it's a single-use food item, like a butter or a cracker or a jelly, if it gets put at the table and it's clean and it's never been used and no one's touched it, they have the option to sanitize those and keep those. But the single-use paper stuff has to be thrown away. I don't understand why. Maybe because you can't get it wet. I'm not really sure, but they just toss them. And same thing if they bring you silverware and it's wrapped up in a paper napkin with a little plastic band or a paper band. If you touch it, if you just touch it to say no thank you, put it at the end of the table, technically they're supposed to throw that paper away and rewash that silverware. It's a lot of backwards coaching, in my opinion. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense.
We're so used to using in excess that
absolutely
everybody just says, oh, cool, they brought us lots of napkins, or the joke of, oh, they must, they probably think we're going to be sloppy. That's not what the feeling was at our table. The same thing, I went grocery shopping recently, and I don't use plastic bags for the produce anymore. What I do is I use the spot where a child can sit. I just pile the produce in there because I realized they're going to give me a plastic bag at the end anyways.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to wash these vegetables before I use them anyways. So there's no reason to put them in a plastic bag so that I can put them in a plastic bag. So I just pile them in the cart. And when we go through the register, we'll get a plastic bag. But while I was there, I found out that the rule of you can't bring your reusable bags is a pseudo rule. You can bring them, but if you bring them, you have to pack your own stuff.
Really?
I have no problems packing my own groceries.
Is this at Riverside or is that at Horrocks over in Lansing?
Nope, this was at Myers.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So I can then refuse plastic bags because in the last year, I have accumulated a tremendous amount of plastic bags.
I don't doubt it.
I try to use them for everything I can at this point, but it's just too many. But now I can go and take my bags to Myers and I'll just pack my own groceries. I'll quit going to the regular register. I'll do the one where I can scan my own and I'll just pack my own groceries.
Yeah, that's actually one of the more redeeming things that I enjoy about like Gordon's, if you will. So same thing with Aldi. they don't have bags in that regard. They don't have plastic bags. They don't have anything like that. So if you go there and you go shopping, if you're fortunate, they have boxes and you can load them up in boxes if you don't have your own bags. Being that we do a ton of eBay, I'll take all the boxes you want to give me. But on the flip side of it, we do have a number of reusable tote bags. In fact, I wish I had it with me to show you because I'm sure these are going to make it online at some point. Gordon sells, you want to talk about embodied energy. Gordon sells these reusable tote bags, and they are immensely cheap is for what they are, but they're outstanding. They're very durable. They're like very thick woven material. They're heavy duty. They hold, I think I've had 100 pounds in one, and they're $9.
Well,
so
I'm
sure
you have to use them a long time to get that energy out. So I hope they're very durable.
The reusable grocery bags are extremely durable. And you're right, you have to use them a long time, but they will last a long time. The insulated food ones, total garbage.
Well, and I'm sure the embodied energy on those is probably, I don't think you can recover from them. So I don't think you can use them enough to ever make up the difference. The only thing you're saving is plastic waste, which after my day today, thank you for saving plastic waste. But, as COVID is loosening up a little bit, I'm starting to ask people, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I bring my bags? Can I refill my own coffee cup, please? The local coffee place lets me refill my coffee cup. So now I go there.
Seriously?
Yep.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Can I bring my coffee cup there, and will they make me one that I want that big?
Well,
I'll pay more.
Yeah, you just show them your cup. They tell you how much it is. You pay them, and you go over and fill your coffee. So I'm happy that I can actually get my coffee cup filled again. Instead of when I would go to McDonald's, they would refuse and make me take a paper cup and then dump it into my reusable because I wanted it in my reusable anyways. It keeps it warmer longer.
Well, it does, and I can't even tell you how many coffee cups I had in my truck from that marathon down the road from your house. Several, probably 15 for the months during COVID that I was coming out there, or from the stomping grounds even. Like I had to buy one every time I went there because I couldn't use my Yeti or I couldn't use one of my insulated cups, and so I amassed a ton of them.
One last thing on refuse, because it also means things that you like and want. For an example, I like reusable cups. I have 4 of them. I've never bought a reusable cup myself. The very first one, I was still in college and couldn't afford them anyways, and Mom she bought it for me. It's actually a French press that I pulled the press out of, as was my coffee cup all through college. It's a little dented up. It's in the book. There's a photo of it. But every one that I have one from the engineering firm I used to work with. They gave me one. It says their name on it. Jameson's family doesn't know what to get me. So what do they get me? Those tall, Contago cups. I have 4 total. I should never have, at this point, I should never have to buy a reusable cup, ever.
I agree. We have an immense amount of them. I say we because while I do have the most, I am in no way, shape, or form the only person that does have them. But I probably have, sitting in front of me right now, I have 2 Yetis. I have a blue one and I have a red one. I've got a black one upstairs, and they're the 32-ounce ones. I also have a number of smaller 16 and 24-ounce cups. Some are embroidered with my name. Some were gifts. Other ones were just, MTA, hey, they're giving away these cups. Do you want a couple? Sure, I'll take them. And it sounds ridiculous to have so many, but at the end of the day, if I could just fill that up and I have to get something else, why not? And they're all insulated. And you know me, I drink a lot of coffee, and the coffee stays hot for hours in these. So I really enjoy having them versus having to go and get a disposable one from the gas station or the local grocer or wherever I'm buying coffee that day. My Big B still will not let me use my Big B cup yet. I do have a huge Big B cup, but they're still not allowing us to use our own cups yet.
That's part of the refuse thing is that if we have enough, I have 4. I mean, I should have those the rest of my life, unless one of them breaks at some point. I mean, shoot, one's immortalized in the book. Those things will last forever. They're aluminum cups. If the plastic top breaks, that's the only time. And 2 of mine are interchangeable.
Really?
So, yes, the Contagos are all the same, so they'll all match. And I guarantee you, within the next 5 years, someone's not going to know what to give me, and they're going to get me a reusable drink cup. So that's one of the things I want to focus on refuse. When you have enough, because here's what happens. We have enough, but then I see one that's Iron Man. Well, I got to have the Iron Man one. No, I don't. I have 4 cups. I can drink coffee out of all 4 cups.
So this touches on something you and I have already talked about. I love pop culture. I've been undergoing like force feeding myself a different way of thinking with that regard. I just have enough, and a lot of the stuff I have, I'm getting rid of. And it's not that I don't like it. Just like it's not like if you refuse the Iron Man cup, it's not that you don't like it. It's not a matter of hey, is this cool or hey, do I think it's worth the money? It's do I need that in my life? And you really don't. So I know for a fact that I probably won't buy another insulated coffee cup for myself, and I make that choice speaking for the purchases I'm going to make. Now that doesn't stop someone else from giving me one as a gift, and I would never, for the sake of courtesy and being kind and loving with family, ever turn one down. Like, oh, thank you, but I don't want it. I'm not that kind of person. It's easier just to refuse to purchase it myself. I have two on my shelf right now that I didn't mention because I don't use them. I have an X-Men one and a Captain America one that I did use for a long time, and they did break. They're not metal, they're plastic. The bottom, eventually after being dropped 100 times, busted out, and now they sit on the shelf where they'll probably be until I die. But I don't need more. I don't need any more. I don't need to go buy the Iron Man cup or that Godzilla cup or whatever it is. So I understand the refuse, especially with pop culture stuff or things that 100% we don't need. I don't need any of this stuff.
Well, and I think sometimes we lose track of it. There's a lot of things that I think are neat, but I'm telling you, over time, people are going to give them to you anyways. If they get to know you, they're going to give these as gifts. So refuse is, try to find as many things to not take. Every time we don't take something, another one isn't produced. So I don't take a straw, another one isn't produced, at least for that one, each and every time. The other thing is reduce. Reduce is different. Reduce is me with my meat right now. I'm trying to find ways. I got to tell you, when we went to eat today, Jamie picked and she's not a vegetarian, but she picked a vegetarian dish today. And I think what I've discovered is if it's a vegetarian dish, they put a lot more effort into making it taste good.
They have to.
Well, it was way better than what I had. And
What'd you get?
They have a fancy taco kind of thing, and I had a few tacos. But again, reduce. Instead of getting a full meal, I asked for just the tacos, so I don't have all the sides and all the extras. It's just I'm a 200, nearly 260-pound man that doesn't need to be 260 pounds, and he gets that way by eating everything on his plate. So
just a little fella.
Just more lettuce. I want more of the veggies. But hers was a quesadilla with no meat. It was delicious.
Okay, so we're going to be honest on this one. You're right, it's delicious, but it's not delicious because there's vegetables. It's delicious because it's fried bread and melted cheese.
They put some effort into the flavor. Where,
I bet they did.
Where things with meat, they go, it's got meat. Here you go. But reduce, that's where I'm looking at is I have to reduce my single use items because there are times we just use things because we have to use them. And yes, if you're at work and you have no way to eat your food, don't just grab it with your fingers and throw it in your mouth. Grab a fork. It's okay. Wipe it off and use it the next time. Use that same one. I guarantee that fork will live a long time, about 1,000 years.
Probably.
So the goal is to buy a little less. That are jokes about my vegetables in the base. That's one head of lettuce I don't have to buy. If those, as those sweet peas mature, that is a pack of sweet peas that I won't have to buy. I'm finding ways to reduce in every way I can.
I think that the way you're looking at it is, I'm just gonna say it. It's kind of profound because when you say reduce, a lot of people just think as using less, but you're using less in more ways than one. So when you talk about your peas and stuff, you're right. That's one less that you're going to have to buy, which really means that's one less that they're going to produce that's going to get wrapped into plastic bags that come from another country. Like you're literally reducing the amount of embodied energy that one person consumes by immense proportions by just trying to eat better and live healthier. And it's inspiring and it's fantastic when you look, you get down to the meat of it. They always say the devil's in the details. Well, that's true, but so is the truth. When you look at really what you're doing and what I do sometimes, because I'm not nearly as good as you, there's a lot more to it than just saying, hey, I don't want to eat as much meat anymore. And I'm the first one to tell you, for being from the same meat and potatoes family, you can eat amazingly delicious meals that are just veggies and different stuff. You don't have to have meat. Meat, to quote a chef, If you've added Brussels sprouts or bacon to a dish, you've given up because they make it they make it perfect. You don't need meat. You don't need meat if you're a good cook. You don't need meat if you want to eat healthy. You have to enjoy the flavor of life to really put love into stuff. And fresh fruits and vegetables are gorgeous. I mean, they are just beautiful, and the flavor profiles are immense. And now you got me hungry. Thank you very much.
That's what I do.
I know.
So reduce fits into our little bit. That little bit, because it ends up being a big bit because you hit it right on the head. So if I would have in the winter, or let's say even this time of year, bought a pack of sugar snap peas, they have the flash froze, throw them in the microwave, they steam themselves kind of thing. That is a couple ounces of beans, likely produced at least 500 to 1,000 miles away, and packaged and stored. So the energy, someone's got to go pick them. Someone's got to wash them. Someone's got to soak them, then freeze them, then package them, then warehouse them, and then ship them and receive them, and then put them on the shelf so that I can drive out there and get them. Just having one serving produced from my basement stopped that embodied energy.
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to look at it even further. So what you just said, and I can't believe I didn't think of this. So those little steamer bags you're talking about, those ones that you can microwave, the reason you can microwave those is they're a very small portion. There is no world where one of those will work for 5 people unless it's going in like a stir fry. You can't just take a steamer bag, which is like 12 ounces of broccoli, and use that as a side dish for 5 people. It just doesn't happen. And so you have to buy 2, you have to buy 3, you have to buy more than that. And that just adds to the embodied energy, adds to your grocery costs because they're conveniently steamer bags. They're more expensive that you could go to the grocery store, and we're talking about, peas that are picked and flown halfway across the world. You could buy a pound of them for like $1.99 or $2.99, or you can get 12 ounces of them for $4 because comes in that convenient steamer bag. It's bad. It's really bad. And then, think about the energy uses in your microwave. Oh, my God.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to do is that if the garden really does what it's supposed to do this year, I'm going to learn to freeze. I'm going to learn to soak those beans and those peas and the broccoli and then throw them in the freezer on a tray. And when they freeze, then I'll vacuum seal them myself. And then we will have broccoli and peas and green beans and won't have to buy any more of those. I'll be able to grow enough for the whole year. Reduce is a lot of different things. Now, reuse is in my wheelhouse. This is my mom right here. My mom was one of those people who there was no, you use it up. Everything you have, if you just use it till it's a nub, and then you take that little wooden nub and throw it in your garden. But, so butter containers, which, I love you, honey. Jamie hates the fact that we have a lovely selection of butter containers as Tupperware. Reuse is very important. Same thing applies to reduce. Everything you reuse something for. If I plant starter plants in a butter container, I didn't buy something to start my plants. If I reuse anything, it's because I had a need and I didn't buy something to fill that need. So I keep all my old containers. If it has a purpose, I keep it, even sometimes to the dismay of my wife. I try to find a use for something at least twice is my goal, but I won't, again, when you're married, sometimes you have to do things a little different. I won't use the glass container from the salsa to put flowers in, as a vase. I'll have to use it for other things, but because she's not big on things that aren't pretty. She's very good at making things pretty. I'm very good at making things useful. Those don't always go together.
That is the greatest description of your guys' marriage I've ever heard in my life.
Actually, she's a better builder than I am. So, but I am tech support. So I guess we offset pretty well. So the next thing moving along is repurpose, which is a little confusing because it seems a lot like reuse.
Yeah.
I want people to look at repurposing. Remember when I taught a lot of STEM classes on the north end of Flint, and one of the things I used to do is everybody wanted mechanical pencils. It was one of those things that I brought a bunch with me. They always, they wanted to fight over them. So I started bringing lots of them. And I would say, if you can use this pencil today without using it to write or erase, you can keep it. I wanted kids to think of things that they could do with that pencil that pencil was never intended for. And that's where repurpose comes in. That's where the best repurpose site you will ever find is Pinterest.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic website.
That is your repurpose site. That is where people learn to do things. That is a purpose attempt to learn to reuse something.
I agree. And I think there's a lot of things you can do that with. I think you just have to be a little more open minded to kind of step outside the box and see what other uses you can have for things. The obvious one that everyone does, I think, is the grocery bag into a trash can liner. That's something that's very, very obvious. I think, Lord have mercy, I've seen ones that people have made garden decorations of little windmills out of pop cans, stuff like that. And the important part is, when we talk about repurpose, we don't necessarily mean a utilization of this item that is going to be in the same ballpark as what it was before. We just mean anything you can use it for that stops it from going to a landfill or getting buried in the ground somewhere. So if you can take your old towels and you can use those for insulation or something, or you can take your cans and you can make windmills, or you can get on Pinterest and you can take a bobby pin and make it into a Corvette, whatever it is you're good at. If you can MacGyver something amazing, do it. It doesn't really matter, as long as it doesn't matter to you where you got the materials to use and you're not ashamed, because some people are. I'll be honest. I think a lot of people, not everyone, but I think there's a huge fear with people that in doing this, they're going to look poor. They're afraid that people are going to judge them for using the stuff they have instead of just going and buying new. When I understand that social fear, but really they should look at it like this. They're being industrious, and they're using ingenuity to get out there and take what they have and utilize it. And that's wonderful. And if nothing else, you will make the best utilization of anything you have by getting comfortable with doing that kind of stuff. That's my opinion. That's how I feel about it. I am not from a wealthy family. I understand the value in utilizing that. For instance, the planter that I failed to grow things in for 3 years in a row because I'm not a good gardener like my wonderful brother here, started its life off as an apple crate that would be loaded with apples or other types of produce at the orchard. And when it became too dilapidated, if you will, too just beat up and it was falling apart to hold hundreds of pounds of apples, I said, hey, are you going to throw those away? They said yes. I said, can I turn them into planters? Worst case scenario, the dirt and the worms are going to turn the wood into dirt anyway, so they're planters now.
Okay, yeah. It's to me, that's almost an upcycle. There are times that we take things that were made for one thing, that for single use. And if you can make it a permanent use, you've upcycled the product. Because, for an example, a K-cup was designed for one time in a coffee machine to make one cup of coffee. But if you kept them, cleaned them out, put a couple of little holes in the bottom, and you grew your plants, you started your plants in them. And when those plants were mature, you pulled them out, put them where they go, but kept the cup and used them over and over again. I believe you've upcycled. You've given it a lifetime job, because it's only going to work for about 1,000 years. So you should be able to handle that for a while.
Where did that idea come from? Did you just pull it out of your head? That's fantastic.
Oh, for the planters? Yeah.
That's
I don't have K-cups, so I can't do it. So
well, I understand that, but I'm sitting here looking at a Keurig. That's genius.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's where you start all your seeds. After they're germinated, you put them in there. They grow to a certain height. When they start to get too big for that, that's when the roots have started to root lock inside. So you can pull them out and put them in their planter or wherever they go. But they're perfect because they won't go anywhere. They're not going to wear out, not in your lifetime or your children's lifetime. So you might as well use them forever.
Well, and you're right. But also, just kind of tacking onto that, it's almost identical to the size that they start plants in anyways. So it's great. I'm a little jealous. I wish I had these good ideas.
And it's funny because you can go to the store and buy a stack of them.
Yeah, for a ton of money.
I mean, to me, anything is a ton of money, because water bottles can be cut and used. There's a lot of things that we can cut and use to grow something. You've seen the pictures of my basement. That is like random garbage I'm growing in.
You're right. I've seen the pictures. I still, in how many years you've been in the house, have not been in that basement. So I'm a little jealous. But I have an idea that I'm going to utilize. And if I fail miserably, I'm going to show you and I'm going to have you tell me where I went wrong. But I'm in the process of looking for the right materials to redo where my turtles live. Because I don't want to have the giant glass aquariums anymore. They're possibly hard to keep clean, and the turtles don't get any attention really, because half the time they're at the bottom and they're 2 to 3 feet deep. Like, they're really large. What I'd like to do is I'm going to order some clear. I'm either going to order some clear plastic Cambros, because you can get them in 4 feet by 3 feet, and they're about 10 inches deep. or I'm going to get some used ones from a friend of mine at the restaurant. But I'm going to set up the perimeter in those things with 2 liter bottles that we have. I'm going to hollow them. Well, they're hollow. I'm going to cut the top off, fill them with dirt, and I'm going to grow my herbs in there. And they're going to free float right in the water as long as I can get the balance right so they don't tip over. The turtles' heat lamp should produce enough light and enough heat for the plants, and as long as the turtles don't climb up them and eat the herbs, it'll be perfect.
Sounds like a fun experiment.
I can't wait to try it.
Yeah, it's anything that you can repurpose, and if that's the case, they'll grow there forever. Those will constantly regenerate. You'll snip off pieces to cook with, and it will just keep regenerating over time. And that plastic isn't going to biodegrade, so that's the least of your worries.
No, I'm not worried about that. My thought process is that if I put 2 tiny pinholes, like very small ones, in the bottom of that bottle, that would keep enough water coming in to keep the dirt nice and moist, to stop it from drying out from the heat lamp. The top might be. But also, if the roots are pulling in some of that water, every time I've had plants in those type of terrariums, it's always helped keep the water very clean. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that it helps keep the water oxygenated, it helps keep it clear. It'll allow it to have nice foliage for the turtles. The turtles seem to be happier when there's greens around anyways. Some things they eat really, really quickly, but for the most part, they seem happier when there's more plants and more like vegetation. Well, so I'm excited.
Another fun thing that I found about quote unquote using garbage is, as you know, Greening Your Life partners with a lot of Facebook groups, and one of them is the Urban Hobby Farmer. One of my favorite groups. These guys are fantastic. They let us put our show on there. I think they're actually going to start selling legacy seeds. So if you're from Canada, look them up. But they recently posted repurposing strawberry and rotisserie chicken containers into tiny greenhouses.
That's genius.
Where you can start 6-10 seeds. You can grow lettuce in a rotisserie thing until it starts to get to where it's hitting the top. You take it off, and there's where you start trimming from. Or you can transplant them into something else and put new ones in there to start them. Those are quite literally little greenhouses.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the bottom is black, so it's going to attract sunlight or heat, and the top is clear, so it's going to let a lot of heat in. That's awesome.
So when you put the water in there, you'll get that, like the water cycle effect. You'll get the water beads on the top. It'll rain down on it and keep circulating it because the plant is going to absorb it, but plants actually give off moisture. And it creates a little rain effect. It's a great idea. So thanks, Frank. I really appreciate you posting that. That's going to happen in my basement for sure.
That's a fantastic idea.
So the last thing is, and I know we've taken this topic along with some of my earlier stuff and really drug it out for a long show, so is recycling. And that's the one everybody knows, but you see lots of percentages. Like they always say, 9% of plastics are recycled, but sometimes you see 20% of plastics are recycled. It's on average about 12% of all plastics are recycled, because if they say 20, they're using certain plastics that we recycle a lot. If they say 9, we're picking some that we don't recycle very often.
Yeah.
Really, the average is somewhere around 12%, and it's pretty fluid based on need. But it is best if we recycle. And I know that the recycling centers are not recycling everything you send. That does not mean we quit. Does not mean because sometimes we practice. You put those things in that bin, because even though it's not being recycled today, it will be another day. It's a habit to build. My kids need to see me taking the recycle bin out so they grow up knowing they're supposed to. The neighbors need to see the recycle bin out there so they know they should be doing the same.
Agreed. But also, I mean, if we're talking about, honestly, in an ideal world, you're not going to have enough things, if you live right, to fill that bin every week. You shouldn't have that many items. You might, and as we work through this and people start getting better with their habits, obviously it's going to slowly diminish. The number is slowly going to go down. But isn't the goal to get to where you don't have enough to fill that bin every week, to where you just do it because that's what needs to be done, but you're putting out as little as possible?
Yeah, and ours are not, even my trash cans don't necessarily need to be out every week. We're getting to a point. Sometimes we fail for a week and we got 2 cans sitting out there. But organic waste is ours. That's ours. That's value. So that gets mixed into the soil, and it gets mixed into our property somewhere. The banana peel goes into the garden. That's mine. You can't have that. Now, when The plastics. If it's lightweight plastics, I am jamming that into a 2-liter.
Brick it, baby.
I am bricking that as much as I can. I'm trying to minimize my space, my impact. Yeah, once I have enough of them, I am going to contact a company and see if I can get them over to them so they can use them. The recycle for me has been a lot of the glass, aluminum, stuff like that I know can be recycled and is recycled. Glass and aluminum, copper, anything like that, that's recycled and it needs to be recycled. Plastics, that's for practice. So I'm trying to use as many of those myself. So now we're to the point where on trash day, we take out 1 can. If we're on it for that week, we take out 1 can with a family of 5.
Well, that's amazing, and we are not on it ever. We can never get there. The only part that I can say that I surpass most people in is the organic waste, because I have a whole flock of disposals that just utilize all of it. Yesterday, we took them out a bucket of, Heather cleaned out all the leftover in the fridge that were never eaten. Some were soups, some were pastas, things that I'm like, okay, I'll eat that for dinner and lunch the next day. And then I didn't. Because I'm on this medication, I don't eat nearly as much as I normally would throughout the day. So I don't eat the leftovers like I would. So now we have to make a huge point to cook less. Like, we really have to focus on it. Mm-hmm. So we filled the bucket and we took them out there like yesterday morning. And then that night, I don't remember what we gave them, but we filled the bucket again. And I was like, wow. She's like, yeah, all that food we gave them the first time was gone already. And I'm like, that's insane. She's like, they haven't touched their chicken feed.
Perfect.
Because they're just eating all this leftover food from us. And it's awesome. I mean, it's a great way to utilize it. It's not going in the garbage, which means it's not going to the end of the road. It stops pests and other animals from trying to get into it. But also, we get something out of it. We're recycling it in the sense that we feed it to them and they give us eggs. So it works out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's funny because it's one of the things we talked about in the city before we close up here today is I'm trying to get them to create a compost area so all the organic waste, the leaves, everything that we get year round can go over there. When we start pulling the plants at the end of the season, we want to throw it in there. We have large equipment. We can push it around. It's not a big deal. That way we're not buying dirt all the darn time. We'll have the best soil. I'm trying to convince them, and I think it's working. That's an asset. All that organic waste is an asset. I would like a spot where people in town can drop off their organic waste and it goes in our pile. And we just keep turning it and using it back in the city. And if we get too much of it, then maybe people from town can come get a scoop. There's value in that organic. There's a lot of places that need nutrients in their soil, and we're just throwing it away.
No, I agree. Considering that my yard is like 1 or 2 inches of topsoil on top of sand, I completely agree. I need as much of that as I can get.
Then chop your leaves up over and over and over again and leave them. I hope you got some value out of today and that we covered those 5 R's a little closer. If you think that we should have done rot or some of those other R's, let us know. Post it on the Facebook page. Send us a message. These are the ones that we thought were the most important, but I think everybody has their own opinions. Also, thank you again for those of you who are posting reviews on iTunes. I think we're climbing up there really slowly, but it is helping. So we greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for being involved and helping us be successful here at Realistic Sustainability. So that's all for this week. I'm Mike.
And I'm Nick.
We'll see you next week.